Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. My name is Aziza Courtney. Welcome to the P3 show. I'm excited today and I'm nervous and I don't know why, but I have a special guest with me today. She is one of the very few women that I really look up to and have always looked up to. She be like my inspiration and whatnot or whatever. I am so pleased to introduce you all to my big sister, Tasha Fuller. How are you today, sister?
I am good. I am good. You're flattering me, and I don't know why.
Well, it's because you bomb. Look, I'm too nervous. My glasses fogging up. Okay.
It's all right.
So,
We both have to wear glasses now.
so I want to highlight some of the things that you do. You're a self-published author, an event planner, a photographer, uh, a marriage retreat counselor. I mean, what? Tell me what you don't do. How
Uh, there,
am I missing anything?
there's probably some stuff that you're missing, but it's okay if we don't touch on those things. But there's lots of things that I don't do, and sometimes I don't want to take credit for the things that I do. But it's a gifting, so you just got to walk in it most of the time. People find out that I do stuff and I'm not really trying to tell them that I do it because then it creates more work for me,
Mm,
if that makes sense.
yeah.
So I try to be on the DL sometime, even though as a Courtney child, it's hard to do that.
That is too funny. That is too funny. So tell us how did you get to where you are now? Do you consider yourself a side hustle queen, a serial entrepreneur? What would you classify yourself?
I would say that I operate my gifts, and everything has a time and a season. And I think I've embraced things as life has come at me. Um, of course, we all start off with this plan. I want to do this, I want to do that. And then, as life happens, you have a choice. You can either shift as your life is shifting, or you can stay hard pressed to try to do what you think is supposed to be happening in your life. But I think I figured out very quickly early on is that you need to take the opportunities that come to you in life as they're coming to you, because sometimes those opportunities don't um, present themselves again. When we're from a big family, for those of you who don't know, there is like I have 14 other siblings. Aziza has what? You have 20 something siblings, Aziza.
Yeah,
How many
20.
siblings do you
20.
do you have?
I
Okay,
got
so
20 siblings.
she has 20 siblings, and I have 14 other siblings, and we are siblings. We share the same father. And I think early on in life we had, at least for me, because I'm part of the older set of siblings, and she's the baby girl in all of the families. So she's the baby girl, and then she has a younger brother who's our youngest brother, who's the baby boy. So there's a range. Are y'all still in your what? You're still in your 20s? Are you still in your 20s, or did you hit
Nope.
30 yet?
We are 30 and above now. I did 31.
So I would say that our my oldest sibling, which we actually just found a couple years ago, which was Jason, and we always referred to him as little Tony. Um we he was adopted when my dad was younger. He had a child in college, and we recently just found him. And I think when we grow up with so many different family dynamics, you just have to be amenable, right? Because it takes too much energy to kind of be drama filled for me. Like, it's like, oh, I got another sibling. Okay. So you just kind of go with the punches. And I think that, at least the way that I was raised in two different households. I lived primarily with my mom, who was a single mom at this point. My mother was my father's first wife. Um, They were married in 1969. I was born in 73. I have two older siblings. Sister snuck in the middle. That's not my mama's baby. And then two younger brothers, and however all that works. And so, but I am actually closest to my younger sister, who is not my mother's child. So we have always had a very good relationship because our mothers made sure that we had a good relationship. And I think that for us, even as you are so much younger than me, I think you may be about 15 years younger than me, Aziza. I felt like I always tried to be around, right? Like I would come up for the summers, like summer was the thing that we did. And so that's when we had an opportunity to connect with, my father's side of the family. There was always kids in the house. Some of them was your cousins, some weren't your cousins. But some was your siblings, some weren't your siblings, but you didn't know how these people were connected to you. But we kind of thought everybody as, family. And I think just growing up in that environment where there's 50 million kids, and I don't want to say that we were left to our own devices because grandma was there. And but you had to learn quickly how to go along with the flow, and you had to learn quickly that everything does not come your way just because you want it to be your way. And then you had to learn quickly, where do you fit in all of this? Like I tell people all the time, we were the original Fat Albert in the game. Like we were the original group. You would see 15 kids walking down the sidewalk headed to the YMCA, and there were no parents in the mix. And I'm telling you, the oldest person had to be only 10. And then there was everything from 10 to 2 dragging along behind with no parents. So I just think from our childhood that I learned to be very flexible and to not take stuff personally, because your siblings can be the harshest to you, not caring about your feelings, talk about how you look and what you smell like, and oh Lord, don't be a pee-pee girl. One of our siblings was a pee-pee girl. So I think just the way that we were reared kind of helped me to kind of navigate. And when I was at home, my mom, she's a single mother of 5 children. So we had to be very independent early on. We had chores, we had 50 million activities, and she would never really tell us what to do. Right. We knew what responsibilities that we had. And if you asked her a question, she would say, well, you're the one who has to wear it. So if you're asking about clothes, you're the one who has to wear it. Or if you're asking about the decision, well, you're the one who has to live with it. So she really kind of trained us to think independently and kind of listen to ourselves. And I guess that's the long answer to how did I get to this point in my life? Or how did I know I wanted to do whatever it is that I'm doing? Is that I learned when I was younger to how to trust myself making decisions. And so in trusting myself making decisions, I had to really look at what was best for me, because no one else was going to look out for what was best for me, and not what's best for me in a selfish way, but what is going to help me grow, what is going to help me learn, and what is going to help me be whole in a sense that I'm going to be happy with myself. So I think I kind of got to where I am today kind of through that journey. It wasn't always easy. It's not easy not growing up with your father in the household. It's not easy being raised by a single mom who's working 2 jobs and going to school full time. It's not easy being the middle child. And it's not easy feeling like, I guess the way I felt when I was younger was that I wasn't noticed because there were so many of us. So um, I guess that's why we all Courtney children stand out, because we had to be noticed in a group of 15 or 20 siblings, you know, so, and we have a couple. I think we have 3 siblings that just kind of maybe 4 that just kind of slide back a little bit. And I don't, as a Courtney child, I don't understand how you are a recluse, but we definitely have some that I can call by name, um, who is not stereotypical Courtney. So as far as like attitude and outgoingness and all that other stuff. So the extroverted part of them. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, yeah, we're gonna do some follow up though.
Okay.
Your background and everything like that, how you grown up, your personality traits that you've picked up along the way, how do you see that showing up when it comes to your business or the businesses that you do?
Okay. Well, let me just kind of tell you a little, you touched on it a little bit about some of the businesses that I do. I would say that I operate completely organically. My husband says that I'm risk adverse, but I totally don't believe that. I totally believe that I have that stop and think reflex before I make a decision. And I tell people this is how I got it. I got a lot of beatings when I was younger, right? And
Mhm.
one of the things that my mama used to say to me is, "Did you stop and think about this?" So when you get a lot of beatings, people don't get beat now, but we got beatings back in the day. Was I developed the stop and think reflex, and I developed that reflex in, is this gonna get me a beating? Because
Mm.
there wasn't a whole bunch of punishment. My mama didn't have time to do that. She's gonna
Mhm.
let you know real quick whether or not you did something wrong. And sometimes, a slap could come out of anywhere. She wasn't big on slapping, but if she say she's gonna slap you, she'd say, "Be quiet before I slap you." She didn't give you a chance to be quiet. She just slapped you, so you just knew. So I think I developed that reflex to stop and think about what I was going to be doing and think about not only the consequences of what I did, but the impact, right? People don't think about like, oh, I'll get in trouble, but they don't think about the impact of them getting in trouble. Like what comes after the discipline or the punishment or the immediate thing that comes after whatever you do. And it's like, how is this going to impact me in the long run? And I think that being able to do that has served me well, right? I played college in basketball. I got a Division I scholarship to play basketball at VCU. Our dad is a collegiate athlete. He played 3 sports in college. Our older brother is a collegiate athlete. He is a Division I basketball coach. I'm a collegiate athlete. Another younger brother is collegiate athlete. I think ID played college basketball. Akil played college baseball. So we all have this like athletic, not even if it's not a collegiate sport per se, like you're a dancer, people do different things. So I was able to go to school on a scholarship, and it wasn't because I was the best at basketball, because when I first started playing, it didn't connect to me that my brother was Mr. Basketball. It didn't connect that my older brother was, getting a scholarship and, all of that, because, I'm the crazy kid. And it didn't connect with me. It only connected when my best friend encouraged me to try out for this traveling team. They call it AAU, and it was nothing like what it is now. Anybody could play AAU now, but AAU back in the day was you had to make the team. And so it was a select team. And it wasn't until she started getting scholarship letters that I was like, what is that? She's like, oh, they're recruiting me to play scholarship basketball. And this is literally what I thought to myself. Well, hell, you're not that much better than me. If I just work harder, I can give me some letters too. And that is the truth of the matter. Because before then, I was terrible. I wasn't committed. I didn't put the time or the effort and the energy to be a good player. But once I kind of clicked in my head that this is what I was going to do, because she wasn't that better. She wasn't really that much better than me. She just worked harder than me. And she
Mhm.
had about maybe about 4 or 5 inches on me. But I was like, my attitude is big. So, I was actually able to do that. And being a scholarship athlete at a Division I school served me really well. I didn't play all 3 years because I got kicked off the team. A lot of people don't know that. And I don't know how I got kicked off the team, but I was still able to keep my scholarship because I petitioned for it, because everybody would want to say, oh, she wasn't starting, she had a bad attitude. No, that's not the case. I was the
Mhm.
star. We just had a whole bunch of coaches coming through that joint. And one day, because I never had come out of the game when this coach had been there, because it was at the beginning of the season, um, she was yelling at me, and I was like, okay. And I asked her if she was finished, and she said yes. So I got up to walk to the end of the bench, because this is what I had been doing since my freshman year, and I'm now in my junior year. And I hear her say, and don't come back. You talking to me? So I didn't know really what was going on, but I just walked out the gym,
Yeah.
because she didn't know, because she was new, that that's what I had to do from my freshman year, because I was too loud and they told me to go sit at the end of the bench,
Mm.
right? So
Yeah.
I would go to sit at the end of the bench to cheer, but because up until that point I had never come out of a game when she had coached us, she didn't know that. And then so, and you know me, I'm just like, okay, really, this is what we're doing right now? I don't need you. So I left, and then they didn't even tell me that I was off the team. One of my teammates told me, and I was like, okay. And I tell people, I say, that's the best thing that ever happened to me, right? Is because
Mhm.
sometimes, we don't want to move from a place because we think that this is where we're supposed to be. And I knew I didn't want to play professional basketball. I mean, was I good enough to play? Absolutely. But the WNBA hadn't even started then. And I was not trying to go overseas. And me not playing basketball anymore actually exposed me to regular student life on campuses. And I was like, oh my goodness, my grades shot up exponentially because I wasn't overworked and tired and trying to still be a student and be an athlete at the same time. I started working. Well, actually, I started volunteering, which turned into job opportunities for me. And it actually set the foundation for what I'm actually doing today. So I always tell people, even when I see that coach, and it wasn't my head coach that, told me not to come back, it was some assistant who, she didn't know me. And even when I see my coach who never said a word to me, right? I was like, hey, how you doing? Because she didn't know that she actually did me a favor, right? By her being a coward and not communicating with me, actually put
Mhm.
me to the next phase and the next stage of my life that I needed to prepare for when I finished college. So that takes it back to, that kind of Courtney attitude. If you don't want me, I don't want you.
Right.
Nobody's sitting up here begging you, right? So, and I majored in business in college. I have actually a bachelor's in human resource management, business administration, and a minor in African American studies. And anybody who knows our family, the minor in African American study only makes sense.
Yeah.
So, and then, finishing school, it took me an extra year. So it don't matter how long it take you, just finish. It just doesn't matter because, you know, we just have to work at our own pace and we can't compare ourselves to other people because that's where we go wrong. Like when we're
Mhm.
looking at what my best friend is doing or what my sister is doing or what the girl is who works beside me is doing, we kind of get off track because their plan is not our plan. Their
Mhm.
destiny is our destiny. And so um, when I look back on all the choices that I made, those decisions had to be right for me. And I tell people when I got my first job out of college, I was actually running my mouth on the plane, talking to this dude that I had said in my mind, "Oh Lord, I hope this man don't talk me to death," because he just looked like a talker. And that's coming from a talker. But I talked to that dude all the way down to Atlanta when I was going to visit Freddie. And then God would have it, that dude was on the plane coming back and we sat next to each other again and talked all the way back. We exchanged information And the day I was leaving, this is like right before I graduated from VCU. The day I was leaving, my I'm turning off the lights in my office, and I'm like, "Oh, thank you, Jesus! It's time to go." My phone rings, and I'm just fussing. I'm like, "Who is calling me? I'm leaving. This is my last day at work." And it was Ed, the guy on the plane, and he asked me if I had a job when I was moving to Atlanta, right? And I was like, "Nope, I'm just moving to Atlanta because that's where Freddie was." And I was like, "I get a job," but they gave me a job coming straight out of college because of me meeting this guy on the plane and just running my mouth and being helpful.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where that started. I know I said a lot, and you probably have some questions because you know.
Well, I do, but so you have your Facebook page where you're doing, is it 50 before 50?
Yes,
Can you
yes.
talk a little bit about that and how you do your life and work balance?
Is that such a thing?
I mean, you make it look easy, you
Oh my
know.
gosh. So yes, so the 50 before 50, so I'm not 50 yet. I will be 50 in May of next year. And it's ironic that you say life balance, because when I decided to do this was after a very trying time, just in my life. My marriage was, my husband and I, we've been married 25 years, and we've been together 31 years. He's my college sweetheart. I met him my freshman year, and he has not gone anywhere, right? And I haven't gone anywhere. So um part of going to, I do therapy. I'm actually in school now to get a master's in marriage and family therapy. But Freddie and I have been getting counseling for our marriage before we got married and ever since we've been married. So we've been in counseling for at least 26 years.
Wow.
We don't go every month. We don't want to go every other month, but we go when we need perspective. And I was talking to Dr. B, that's our counselor, several years ago when just life was just foolish. Like, it was diagnosed with diabetes, and I was overweight, and just like I started having these panic attacks and just like a whole bunch of foolishness, right? And things that I was like, well, I'm rebuking that in the name of Jesus. But sometimes you can't just rebuke stuff. You just gotta do stuff. You gotta do stuff to make you well. And as a mother of four, and like you said, an entrepreneur, but my primary job is a stay-at-home mom, and a wife, and all of these things that I do. She asked me a very critical question, and the question was, "What do you do for yourself?"
Mm.
That I was like, yes, that was a great question. And the question was, and so of course I answered naming all the things that I do, right? Well, I'm a photographer and I like doing that. She said, well, you get paid for that now. And I was like, oh, okay, you got me on that one. Well, I do this. And she was like, well, that's kind of not for you, you know. And so what I essentially had to do, Aziza, is I had to think all the way back to when I was in college and I was a single girl, right? And Freddie was in grad school at Atlanta, and I didn't have to play basketball. I didn't have to be up at 5 o'clock in the morning to go do workouts and, then go to class and then go back to practice and then go to team meetings and, mandatory volunteering. I had to go back to the time where I actually found myself, where I used to sit in my apartment, listen to Billie Holiday and just cry. Like, why am I crying? you know? And I had to ask myself, what do you really enjoy doing when it's just you? Like, what is it that makes you, I'm not going to say happy because happy is temporary, but what brings you to peace? What gives you joy? What calms your state of mind? What brings you this balance that you're seeking and you're searching for? And um, it's like this feeling that's almost indescribable, because if someone asks you what would make you happy, nobody could really describe it or pinpoint it singularly. Um, so one of the things I realized that I like to do was I love to travel. Oh my goodness. I love to travel. And I really love to travel by myself or with my girlfriends, not with my kids, not with my husband. I like to travel and I like to have a good time. And so what I decided when I turned 48 that my goal would be 50 new places before I turned 50. And so I gave myself 2 years to accomplish this goal. And um, it doesn't take a whole bunch of money. So people like you say you on Facebook, you make it look so easy. Facebook is a lie. You only see what I want you to see. You
Right.
only see what I want you to see. I'm only going to post what I want you to know. Right. And
Right.
so, but I do consider myself to be a very genuine person. So I am very transparent with a lot of what I do. But the way that I do 50 before 50 is that I don't have a predetermined list of places that I want to go. Right. The only place that I want to go is to Tanzania for my 50th birthday. That's the ultimate goal. I want to go to Tanzania. Something about Tanzania resonates with me. So I've been, I think, 35 places, and I have about seven more months to get the other 15 places in. And they've been domestic and abroad. I went to Costa Rica, went to Belize, I went to Aruba. Um, I just got back from Seattle, went to Vegas to see Usher, even though I've already been to Vegas 50,000 times. But I went to a little new place in outside of Vegas that I had never been. Like I had never been to old Vegas, right? I had been to the Strip, but I had never been to this little town that we went and had breakfast. Sometimes I don't count those things, but sometimes I do. Um, I'm in a couple of weeks, I'm going to Portugal and Morocco, right? I wanted to go to Morocco because one of my girlfriends just got back from Morocco. And I was like, oh my God, that looks like so much fun. But I'm cheap. I mean, Aziza, I'm cheap. And so I have to live on a budget. If I want to do 50 places, I can't be balling out, right? I would love to ball out, but I cannot, right? I need to be able to afford it. So when I looked on the map to Morocco, after I looked at the prices, and I use Google Maps for everything, even um, is what's close to Morocco, because those tickets were like $800-900. And I was like, ain't nobody doing that. So what's close to Morocco that I could get to Morocco from another place? Portugal is close to Morocco, right? It's right there. Africa, Morocco is in Africa, right? It's in Africa, but Portugal is north of Morocco. And
Mhm.
Portugal is a major part of the slave trade, right? People don't know that. So tickets to Portugal were $400. I was like, oh, I could do that.
Yeah.
$400 to Portugal. And then I can take a round trip flight from Portugal to Marrakesh for $115. So how do I get to Portugal and Morocco for less than a ticket to Morocco? You just fly into Portugal.
Yeah.
And you just go from so my whole trip, like I just finished booking my hotel and we did our flights because I'm going with one of my girlfriends. And when you travel with your girlfriends, you get to cut that hotel thing in half.
Mhm.
So total, I've only spent $1,000, right? For hotel in Portugal and Morocco with my flight. $1,000. And then when I travel, I try not to spend more than $1,800 all in. So I only got
Mhm.
about $800 more to spend. And then I'm coming home because
Okay.
I like to get all the trips in for under $1,500. When I went to Belize, I only think it cost me $1,200 because four of us went. We spent the rental car, we spent the hotel, we just divide all the food into quarters and, $1,200. There 5 days, 4 nights. No, I'm sorry, that was wrong. We were there 6 days, 5 nights. Had a great time. So that's what I do. I'm always on a budget. If Freddie travels, if it's somewhere I haven't been before, I'm going. I hadn't been to Seattle. So I went to Seattle and Vegas, the both of us, not including food, for less than $500. Yes.
I
Now,
need a travel buddy. I'm gonna
because
just have to
I
start taking my mama.
Yeah, you just because I spent $500. Why? Because I use my points and paid $5 for each of my flights. And if you don't have like a American Express travel card that you just charge everything on and pay it off at the end of the month, but you got to be disciplined. I rack up all those points on those things, so I can use airline miles and go to Vegas and Seattle for $5. So I paid total of $15 for all three of my flights. And then, as I told you, I'm kind of cheap. The Hilton kept sending me a timeshare presentation thing, right? And I hate sitting through those things, but I was like, it's $167 for 3 days. Oh yeah, we doing that. so so we spent 100, and the hotel was not what I would normally stay in. But it was okay, and I was only sleeping there, and it was clean enough for me to sleep there. I'm not going to mention the hotel, but it was right on the strip, but I would not normally stay there because I'm a little bit of a hotel snob. And
Me too.
it was $167. And so now I've only spent, and Freddie's flights were free because his work paid for them. And I stayed free in Seattle because his work paid for them.
That's the
And when we
down.
got to Vegas, the most expensive part of our trip were those darn Usher tickets, but they were worth it. and that's spending less than $500 with the Usher tickets. So now we eat like it's going out of business. So I can't, that ain't. But I still didn't spend more than $200 for the whole week.
Yeah.
That's what I decided to do, a rent a car, driving to the Hoover Dam, eating all that good food, So it was I tried to do that, and that's the one thing for me. Like if I don't do anything else, and I think my mind has gotten conditioned to say, "Hey, girl, it's time for you to go." I was like, "Yeah, I know, I can feel it," So I do that for me. It helps me to stay balanced. Like that's what helps me to stay balanced because a day in my life, people don't even get it. Like all the stuff that I have to do in a day of the life. I am primarily a stay-at-home mom. I have 4 kids ranging from 18 to 5. And we just put somebody in college. And we don't qualify for financial aid. So Spellman, you see me looking at you, you know I'm at you. Because Spellman is not cheap.
Right.
So just between the kids and my business and me being in school and being a wife and doing everything, it's a lot. Like people don't sleep on the stay-at-home mom. We work harder than anybody else. But I don't know how y'all have jobs. Anybody, whether you have kids or not, I don't even know how you do jobs because I don't work for anybody. I work with people. So what else you want to know?
So I'm not married yet, but I've seen you do some of the couples retreats and things like that. Can you talk a little bit about those, how you got started doing that, and where you're going with?
Okay. Well, yes, we've been married a long time. I mean, because you were, oh my gosh, where were you? Like 4 or 5 when I got married? Because you're 30 now. So you had to be
I'm
what,
34
5?
now. I'm
You're
34.
34?
I think
You're
I was
still a
maybe
baby.
9 or 10.
Okay, but you're still a baby because I remember what you look like. you're still a baby. So like I said, Freddie and I have been together 31 years, and you know, I guess from the outside looking in, people think we're relationship goals, the it couple, all of that.
Hmm.
Um, and primarily we are happy, right? We are content in our marriage. Marriage is so hard, and I don't want to ever um sugarcoat it because really it's fool's gold. You know that song by Jill Scott, Fool's Gold? Like
Hmm.
you think you looking at a piece of gold and it's really a rock.
Yeah.
That's really what it's like. So I would say marriage has always been our ministry. in a sense that, we want to encourage people as much as we can, but we want to be transparent and truthful as much as we can for people who can handle it. So about 5 years ago, maybe 6 years ago, our marriage probably hit rock bottom. And it was just difficult. It was like, you've been together so long. I've been with Freddie since I was 18 and he was 23. So we've been together a long time. We've been together longer than we've been apart, right? So
Mhm.
the majority of my life, the three-fourths of our life, we've been together. And over that time, nobody stays the same. And if you are staying the same, there's a problem.
Mhm.
So I am not the same person that Freddie met when I was 18. I am not the same person that he married when I was 23. I'm not the same person when I had my first baby at 31. And then we had that surprise baby at 44. We are not the same people. And we in marriage, you have to make a decision every day what you're going to do. And I think that what you have to decide is not if we're better together, is this worth working for? Does God have something else for us to do? And decided when we got married, because there's a history of divorce in our family. None of these marriages made it past 7 years, at least not the first marriage anyway. um, that we were divorce was off the table, right? And we had a whole bunch of stipulations that were not all met, and we had to really reevaluate where our marriage was. And it wasn't, and I'm not going to say it's because I'm a strong person or he's a strong person, but I'm going to say it's just God. Because if it was me dealing with my flesh, it was like, bye boo, just like I walked off the court in
Mhm.
basketball, I'd be like, oh, what? And so, not always operating in your flesh. And no, we ain't staying together for no kids, because that ain't healthy either.
Mhm.
um but just figuring out how we could continue to grow together. I think one of the things that we realized is that we got so caught up with life, like the job, the kids, the house, the car, just everything that happens. And we lost focus of putting each other as our number one priority. And so when we started Team Marriage, and I'm telling you, Ziza, it's only Holy Ghost, it's only God. He was like, okay, now it's time for you to start Team Marriage. And this is the worst time in our marriage. How we gonna be talking to people? And he was like, exactly. I need you guys to be transparent so that other couples know they're not the only ones going through this BS, right? Because the devil
Mhm.
is busy and he does not want God's first covenant relationship to work. Like the first institution God established on earth was marriage, Adam and
Mhm.
Eve. I don't care what you believe. Everybody know about Adam and Eve, right? Like
Mhm.
you don't know nothing else because it had to start somewhere. And so we started Team Marriage about 3 years ago. That we will actually be doing our fourth retreat this coming February. And we just invited all the couples that we knew, and only three other couples showed up, right? With us, because we was like, Holy Spirit, you just got to move and tell us what to do. And because what we wanted to talk about, but we didn't know how it was going to turn out. And it turned out amazing. And then we did it again the next year, and we more than doubled in size. And then we did it again, and some people fell off and some people came on. And in the interim, we continued. We didn't know that we were going to do this, but this was right after COVID hit. So that because we couldn't get together, we decided that we would do bi-weekly, it's like support calls. So bi-weekly couples calls, and on the alternating weeks, the husbands would meet and the wives would meet separately. So every week, Freddie and I have a call that we facilitate. And then recently, because I get a lot of slack from my friends, because they were like, we can't wait to the retreat. We need, and if you're not part of Team Marriage, you can't get on the calls,
Mhm.
because there's just some people just may not be comfortable sharing in front of people they don't know. And plus, that everybody got to be vetted in some way. So we just don't add new people to the calls that we've been doing for the last 3 years. So what we decided to do is start Teen Marriage Tuesday. So every other month we have a local meeting or support or workshop for couples, for from 6 to 9, 6:30 to 9:30 every other month. And we talk about things like communication and love languages and growing intimacy and planning and just really keeping it real. And so a lot of times we don't have to say a lot. We just give the people the tools and then they start using them. And so
Yeah.
it's usually very funny, but I think it's healing for those people. And I'm just trying to be obedient, Aziza. That's all. Holy Spirit say do something. I'm just trying to be obedient. And that's how I ended up in school because I had no reason to go back to school. You see my life? I don't gotta go back to school. Why I need to study,
Right.
right?
Right.
Anything I want to do, I'll figure it out, right? And be successful at it. Whether it's the photography, the event planning, no matter what I do, I'm going to figure out how to be successful at it because I know how to make money. Um, but I felt as though God needed to just give me a little bit more knowledge and kind of help me put the technical aspect to the spiritual gifts. And it
Mm.
really has made a difference. Like, I'm like, oh, that's why we're doing this. Oh, that's where this comes from. So it's just really studying it just a little bit more where you want to get the wisdom and knowledge to go along with the practical application. And so that team marriage is basically what I tell people: we're a sea, like the sea, the ocean, we're the sea. We are support, encouragement, and accountability because the sea can be rough or the sea could be calm, but it's a great source of nutrients and it connects us and all this other stuff. But if you ain't careful, you'll drown out there. Right. And so
Yeah.
basically, what we're trying to do is help our friends stay married. That's it. And they help us to stay married. So,
Mhm.
but I would say for single people, don't rush it. Enjoy your life and enjoy the opportunity that you have to do things and not check with anybody to see if it's okay. Bye. Girl. I was like, don't try to sign up for my life. You wasn't ready. You're not ready for this. Shoot, I make you tired.
So I remember something you told me a while ago, and I swear, like I've been feeding this same thing to other people, and it's literally like how I keep myself grounded. You told me at one point in time, like you cannot pour from an empty cup, that you can only give to people from your overflow. And when I say that's my life mantra, like when people feel overwhelmed, I repeat that to them. And it's really how I have been able to stay um, focused, how I have been able to not really go crazy, because behind the scenes, life be lifing, life be lifing, okay? And like yeah, at some point, sometimes you feel like you don't have the support and all of that. But again, like I always stop and think, like if I feel like I'm starting to empty myself out, what do I need to do to bring it back in and you know just fill me up again? So thank you
Yeah.
for that lesson.
Yeah. And the point is to never empty yourself out. Never, you should not be turning yourself over, right? And don't get it twisted. It didn't come from me. It came, I think I've heard it on multiple occasions, and I listened to it at the right time, right? You can hear
Mhm.
something but not really be listening, but I listened to it at the right time where I was at a point where I was empty and I didn't feel like anybody was pouring into me, right? Like, how do I stay full? And the objective is for you not to just be reliant on other people to fill you up, but God is your source of fulfillment. And He doesn't want you ever to turn yourself over because
Mhm.
you're always going to be empty if you're turning yourself over to try to fill somebody up. He wants you to stay this way and He wants to keep pouring into you so that everything that's extra that comes out of you feeds other people. Like you're taking care of your mom. Only when you're full can you take care of her. Otherwise, you will not have the energy. Only when I'm full can I be the best mom that I could possibly be. Only when I'm full can I allow my overflow to bless my friends or to bless my husband. And then you also have to be careful too. You have to prioritize who comes under your flow. Because sometimes what you realize, and then Holy Ghost gave this to me, sometimes you could be allowing your overflow to flow into someone who has a hole at the bottom. And you got to be careful about that, right? Because they will always be draining you. They will always be. And some people, this is a hard lesson to follow because sometimes those are the people closest to you. It could be your spouse, it could be your kids, it could be your parents, it could be your best friend, right? And if you're constantly allow your overflow to go into a vessel that never retains, then you need to move that vessel, or at least you need to move it down so that's the vessel that's sitting on the ground, because you have tiers of blessing. And if that vessel is sitting on the ground, then it has an opportunity to get full, right? But as long as it's directly under you and something else is under it, it just goes down into someone else, and that relationship seems so unfulfilling. And sometimes it can be a little hole, or sometimes it could be bottomless, right? And that too drains you, especially if you are not blessing people from your overflow and you're turning yourself out and turning yourself over, right? So remember, it is, God says he's going to bless you abundantly and exceedingly. So that's beyond your capacity, right? Your blessings come beyond your capacity. And the way that water works, when you pour water in, it goes down and the stuff that's on the surface comes up, right? So the stuff that's already made you full, that's going to go over, because you might not need that anymore. That's going to somewhere else. He's going deeper with you. And the more you operate in that, the bigger your vessel becomes. Because sometimes when we're young and we're small, or we don't have the wisdom that we need, that he only is going to give us a little vessel, right? Because it takes less time to fill up and it takes less time to empty. But the bigger you become, the bigger your vessel will be, and you'll be able to handle more, if that makes sense.
It do make sense. Listen, I don't know if this was supposed to be specifically for me, but it was. And so I thank
It's
you
for
for
all of
coming
us.
on. I thank you for coming on. I won't take up any more of your time. Can you let everybody know where they can support your business, where they can patronize your business? I saw something that said we're not supporting business. We're not supporting Black business. We are patronizing and using Black business because they provide things that we value. So
That's
where
right.
can people
That's
find
right.
you? Where can people purchase your items? How can they
Okay.
join Team
So
Marriage if it's open?
Okay, so Facebook, and this is sad because I'm probably not going to allow you to follow me if I don't know you. You just gonna have to connect with me. So you'll have to find it. But Tasha Fuller is my Facebook. Tasha Fuller. Tasha Fuller. You can type in on Amazon Tasha Fuller, and all of my books will pop up, and you can patronize me that way. I am a children's book author. I am a self-publishing coach in the million other things that I do. I do help people write their stories, publish their stories, and make money at it, because there's no point of doing it. I mean, sometimes it's just for you to write it, and that's lethargic. But if you want it to be your business, I can help people do that. But usually it's just Tasha Fuller on LinkedIn. I'm sorry, y'all, but I don't really ever go there because right now my life is full and I have to be very selective about what I take on, because I don't want to pour myself out. Take my own advice. But if you go to Tasha Fuller on Amazon, you can purchase books there. If you go to Facebook, Team Marriage has a page, and it just says Team Marriage. We do have a upcoming retreat, but if we don't know you, or if we don't know somebody who knows you, you will be vetted, because it's important for us to stay connected to the people that we're we're ministering to. So I don't know, what else do I do? What do I do that people need to patronize? Support. I don't
Um,
know, girl. I do too much stuff, and right now I'm trying to stay focused.
okay. Do you want them to be able to follow on your 50 before 50?
Yes, there
Do
is
you
a
help
50.
with
Yes.
travel?
Yes. Okay. Yes. So there, look, because I started a Facebook page for everything. So yes, Facebook is 50 before 50. You can follow the travel there. Sometimes I just lay out the prices of what I paid for, where I stayed, all of that stuff. You can follow the journey. Again, Team Marriage. Again, Tasha Fuller on Instagram. I'm Tasha Fuller 30. You can follow me there. And I do have a LinkedIn page, but I haven't been on that LinkedIn page in so long. Y'all, um, I should be doing better. This is what I fuss at my clients about, but I don't. One day I will. One day I'll be back on my game, but not right now. I got too much stuff going on.
All right. Well, thank you again for coming on with me. I appreciate you sitting here talking to me and really providing lots and lots of jewels that I'm going to take and implement in my own life. Um, Thank you all for watching. Make sure you like the Pretty Plus Size and Powerful Pet page. Follow us on Instagram. You can follow my personal page. I might not add you as a friend, but you can follow me because, like my sister, if I don't know you, we just ain't gonna have that type of connection. But I still love you anyways from afar. But anywho, thank you all for watching. I hope to see you all next week. Y'all have a good evening, good afternoon, good night whenever you watch this. Be blessed. Bye.
Bye. Bye, everybody.